They smile in your face, but feed on your secrets behind your back. The moment you open your mouth about your personal life, you hand someone else the keys to your peace, your plans, and your power. And that might be the worst mistake you ever make, because not everyone wants the best for you. Some want access just to watch you fall. This world thrives on information, and the most valuable information is the one you guard the least. Your personal life, your dreams, your struggles, your relationships, your finances, your setbacks. Once you share them freely, you strip yourself of the armor that protects your progress. The truth is, silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. Silence is control. You don't owe anyone an explanation about why you live the way you do. You don't need validation from others to know you're on the right path. The more private you become, the more powerful you become. Let me tell you why. When you share your personal life with others, you often do it with the hope that they'll understand you, support you, or at least listen with empathy. But the harsh reality is that most people aren't listening to understand you, they're listening to judge you. They hear your vulnerabilities and interpret them through their own filters of insecurity, envy, or narrow-mindedness. What you intended as a moment of honesty, they interpret as weakness. What you shared with hope and trust, they might twist, mock, or even spread behind your back. This isn't just speculation, it's what happens every day in workplaces, families, and even among people who call themselves friends. You think you're building connection by opening up, but often you're just giving them material to talk about when you're not around. They may nod their heads in agreement, offer a few rehearsed words of comfort, but deep down, they are silently filing away your words for later use, sometimes even against you. And it's not always malicious. Sometimes people judge without even realizing it because your reality threatens their comfort zone. Your pain may be deeper than theirs. Your dreams may be bigger. Your boldness to speak your truth might confront their fear of facing their own. When people judge, they're not always doing it out of cruelty. Sometimes it comes from comparison. The more you open up, the more they compare their lives to yours. If you're doing worse than them, they feel validated in their own struggles. If you're doing better, they feel threatened or envious. In both cases, they judge not because of who you are, but because of how your story makes them feel about themselves. This is why sharing your personal life becomes a dangerous game. You never truly know what lens the other person is looking through. What seems like a safe space in the moment can become a source of gossip, misinterpretation, or subtle sabotage. Another danger is that people rarely forget what you tell them, especially if it's raw and real. You may heal from your past, you may evolve, but if they've stored your story in their mind, they'll always see you through that lens. They'll remember you for your breakdown, your bad decision, your mistake, even if you've outgrown that version of yourself. And when they judge you, they're not judging the person you are now. They're judging a memory of you that no longer exists based on information you voluntarily gave. That's why silence is so powerful. It doesn't allow people to freeze you in time. We live in a world where people are more reactive than reflective. They don't always take the time to understand context, emotions, or depth. So when you open your life to others, you risk being misread, misquoted, and misjudged. You become subject to opinions that don't matter, but still hurt. You allow the noise of their perspective to interfere with the clarity of your path. People will begin to think they know you just because you shared a part of your life. And from there, they build a false sense of authority over your journey. That's why you have to be cautious. Not everyone deserves to know your story. Not everyone is capable of receiving it with the compassion and maturity it deserves. Most people, intentionally or not, will judge because that's easier than understanding. And in their judgment, you lose not just your privacy, but your power. When you're working on something meaningful, your growth, your healing, your dreams, your goals, it needs time, space, and silence to evolve. Just like a seed planted in the soil needs darkness before it breaks through the surface, Your progress needs privacy before it's ready to be exposed to the world. But when you constantly share every detail of your personal journey, you interrupt that sacred process. You invite opinions, distractions, and unnecessary expectations that can pollute the purity of what you're trying to build. Your growth is personal, and when it's put on public display too soon, it becomes vulnerable to outside forces that can stunt it before it fully matures. Progress is delicate in its early stages. When you're changing your mindset, improving your habits, or chasing a goal that no one else can see, it requires immense focus and protection. The moment you start telling people what you're doing, their reactions, whether positive or negative, can shift your energy. Some will doubt you, and that doubt will linger in your mind. Some will mock your ambition. Others may support you, but even that can come with pressure to perform, to prove, or to succeed on their timeline. All of this noise can throw you off course before you've even had a chance to settle into the rhythm of your new path. There's also a psychological shift that happens when you talk about your goals too much. Your brain sometimes confuses talking about something with actually doing it. You get a temporary rush of satisfaction from sharing your plans as if you've already accomplished something, but that feeling is false progress. The real work still lies ahead, and now you've added an audience, people who are watching, waiting, and often judging, whether silently or openly. This can create unnecessary anxiety and turn something that should be a personal journey into a performance. Privacy allows you to build in peace. It gives you the space to make mistakes without judgment, to change direction without explanation, and to grow without pressure. You can experiment, reflect, and evolve at your own pace. You can fail in private, recover in silence, and try again without anyone keeping score. That kind of freedom is powerful. Keeps you rooted in the process instead of being obsessed with the outcome or the approval of others. When your progress is quiet, it stays pure. It's driven by your inner calling, not the noise of outside opinions. Another thing to understand is that when people know too much about your progress, they may start projecting their own limitations onto you. They'll tell you what's possible based on what they think they could do, not what you're capable of. They'll discourage you not because you can't do it, but because they couldn't imagine doing it themselves. And if you're not careful, you'll absorb their doubt and shrink your dreams to fit their mindset. That's why silence isn't just about keeping secrets. It's about protecting your spirit. It's about shielding your vision from energy that doesn't align with it. Progress also needs protection from envy. Not everyone is rooting for you, even if they smile in your face. Some people want updates just to measure how far you've gone and silently hope that you don't go further than them. When you keep your progress private, you deny these people the satisfaction of tracking your journey and trying to interfere. You keep your peace intact and your momentum alive. You move in silence, grow in silence, and then one day your results speak so loudly that you don't have to explain anything. Trust is one of the most valuable things you can offer someone, but it should never be given freely to everyone. It must be earned slowly and intentionally. When you share details about your personal life, you are extending trust, exposing parts of yourself that are often raw, real, and unfiltered. But the problem is, not everyone deserves that access. Not everyone has the maturity, empathy, or character to handle your truth with care. Some people see your openness as an opportunity, not a responsibility. And when trust is given too quickly or carelessly, it can easily be broken, manipulated, or used against you. Too often, people reveal intimate parts of their lives to others just because they feel a temporary connection, a surface-level bond, or an emotional high. But real trust isn't built in a few conversations or through casual interactions. It's built over time through consistency, loyalty, and mutual respect. If someone hasn't shown you that they can keep your confidence, support your healing, and never weaponize your vulnerability, they haven't earned the right to hear your story yet. So many people hand over that access without a second thought, only to later find their personal life becoming fuel for gossip, judgment, or betrayal. One of the most painful lessons you can learn is that someone you trusted didn't honor that trust. You confided in them, believing they would hold your secrets like sacred treasures, but instead they treated your life as entertainment. They passed your pain around in conversations with others, added their own spin to your truth, and reduced your complexity to a one-dimensional story that suited their narrative. And by the time you realize what happened, the damage is already done. Your personal experiences, your mistakes, your growth, your struggles, things that should have remained private are now in the mouths of people who never cared about understanding you in the first place. What makes this even worse is that some people act like they care just to collect information. They pretend to be supportive, but their interest isn't rooted in love. It's rooted in curiosity or control. They want to know everything about your life so they can feel a sense of power over you. They disguise their intentions well, often wearing the mask of friendship or concern, but their loyalty disappears the moment your story no longer benefits them. This is why it's essential to observe how people act when they're not getting what they want from you. Do they still protect your name? Do they still respect your silence? Or do they become a source of chaos and exposure? Being selective about who you trust isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being wise. You can still be kind without being open. You can still be loving without being vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with guarding your personal life because once you give someone access to your truth, you can't take it back. Words can't be unspoken. And trust, once broken, rarely returns to its original state. It's much easier to hold your privacy than to repair your peace after it's been shattered by someone you thought you could rely on. So when someone enters your life, don't be quick to offer them pieces of your heart or chapters of your story. Watch how they handle their own life. Pay attention to how they speak about others. Look at how they react when things go wrong. People reveal who they are in subtle ways long before you share anything with them. And if they haven't shown you integrity, discretion, and genuine care, they haven't earned your trust. There's a harsh truth that most people eventually learn through experience. Your truth is not for everyone. Not because your truth isn't valid or powerful, but because most people simply don't have the emotional maturity, the spiritual depth, or the capacity to handle it. What you've been through, what you've overcome, what you dream of becoming, those things might be sacred to you, but to others they can be confusing, intimidating, or even threatening. When you speak your truth, you assume people will try to understand it from your point of view, but many won't. They'll try to fit it into their limited worldview, and when it doesn't fit, they'll label it, mock it, or dismiss it. This is why opening up to the wrong people can feel worse than staying silent. You might find yourself explaining your pain to someone who has never taken the time to understand their own. You might reveal your deepest fears to someone who lacks empathy, and instead of comfort, they give you judgment. You might share your biggest dream with someone whose mindset is rooted in limitation, and instead of encouragement, they try to shrink your vision to match their comfort zone. And when that happens, it doesn't just sting, it leaves you questioning yourself, not because your truth changed, but because their reaction makes you feel like you were wrong to speak it. Everyone sees the world through the lens of their own experience, and that lens can be clouded by fear, bitterness, ego, or envy. So when you share your story, it passes through that lens before it reaches their heart. Some people will twist your words, project their insecurities onto your journey, and interpret your strength as arrogance. They'll miss the meaning entirely because they're not really listening. They are comparing, critiquing, or calculating. Your honesty becomes uncomfortable for them because it forces them to confront parts of themselves they've been avoiding. Your resilience reminds them of their own stagnation. Your dreams highlight the limits they've set for their own lives. And instead of being inspired, they retreat into judgment. This is why discernment is necessary. Just because someone is willing to listen doesn't mean they're worthy of hearing. Just because someone is close to you doesn't mean they can understand you. Many people are not equipped to carry the weight of your truth. They haven't walked your path. They haven't felt your pain. They haven't seen the nights you cried alone, the battles you fought in silence, or the work you've done in private to heal, grow, and rise. So when you speak from that depth, it's foreign to them. And in that unfamiliarity, they reject it, not because it's wrong, but because it's too real for them to comprehend. And the danger lies in how that rejection affects you. If you're not grounded in who you are, you'll begin to internalize their confusion. You'll start doubting your decisions, your journey, even your worth. That's the damage of opening up to someone who can't hold your truth. It fractures your confidence. It pulls you out of alignment. It makes you want to shrink, to hide, to silence yourself so you won't feel that sting of misunderstanding again. And over time, that leads to isolation. Not the healthy kind, but the painful kind that comes from betrayal, dismissal, and being constantly misread. That's why wisdom lies in quiet strength. You don't owe your story to everyone. You don't need validation from people who lack vision. You don't have to explain yourself to those who only know how to listen through the filter of their own fear. Your truth is sacred. It's not meant to be handled by casual minds or careless hands. It's meant to be shared with people who have earned the right to hear it through their love, their integrity, and their ability to understand without judgment. One of the most painful lessons in life is realizing that not everyone who listens to you is genuinely interested in helping or supporting you. Some people only want to know more about your life to use that information against you later. It's a hard truth, but an important one. Many people are collectors, not confidants. They gather your personal stories, not to empathize or uplift you, but to store them like ammunition for a future moment when they can gain some twisted advantage. These are the types who sit quietly while you pour your heart out, nodding and pretending to care, only to walk away and share what they've learned with others, or worse, twist your words and weaponize your vulnerability when it suits them. When you share personal information with people who lack integrity, you're essentially giving them the keys to a room in your soul, one that they might trash, leave open for others to enter, or revisit when they feel like hurting you. What starts as a moment of vulnerability on your part becomes a weapon in their hands. They might wait for a disagreement, a conflict, or a moment when they feel slighted, and suddenly the things you shared in confidence are thrown back at you. They'll remind you of your mistakes, question your growth, or use your past against your present. This betrayal doesn't just hurt emotionally, it breaks something inside you. It makes you question your ability to trust, not just them, but anyone. These types of people are often subtle. They're not always the loud, obvious manipulators. Sometimes they're the ones you least expect, the ones who seemed caring, who offered a shoulder to cry on, who acted like they were in your corner. But behind their comforting exterior is a desire for control or superiority. The more they know about you, the more power they feel they have over you. And power in the hands of the wrong person is dangerous, especially when it comes wrapped in the disguise of friendship or love. That's why it's so important to be cautious. Pay attention to how people treat the information others share with them. If they gossip freely about someone else's life, they'll do the same with yours. There's a certain wisdom in silence. When you keep parts of your life private, you maintain control over your narrative. No one can twist what they don't know. No one can misuse what you haven't said. Privacy becomes your shield, something that protects you from emotional predators who thrive on weakness, pain, or insecurity. It's not about being secretive or distant. It's about being intentional. You have every right to protect your energy, your experiences, and your emotional space from people who haven't shown they can be trusted. And here's another truth. When people sense they can't get information out of you, they often become frustrated, not because they care, but because control is slipping through their fingers. The less you share, the more they speculate. And sometimes your silence drives them mad because they no longer hold access to the parts of you that made them feel powerful. That silence becomes your strength. It creates a boundary they can't cross. It forces them to look at their own reflection instead of hiding behind stories about you. And it teaches you that peace isn't found in overexposing your life. It's found in protecting the parts of you that are still healing, growing, and evolving. So when you feel the urge to open up, pause and evaluate the space you're stepping into. Is it safe? Is it sacred? Has it proven itself to be worthy of your trust? Because once your truth is out there, you can't take it back. You can only hope it lands in hands that will hold it with care. And in a world where too many people use words like weapons, your best defense is quiet strength and selective sharing. People often underestimate how deeply envy can disguise itself in human relationships. Someone can smile in your face, celebrate your wins publicly, and even pretend to care while secretly harboring resentment about your happiness, progress, or peace. When you open up about your personal life to people who secretly envy you, you're unknowingly handing them access to the very things that trigger their insecurities. These are the individuals who clap when you're around but roll their eyes when you leave. They nod in agreement when you share your joy, but inside they're battling jealousy that they don't even try to resolve. And when envy sits in silence, it turns dangerous. It brews beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect opportunity to erupt, often in subtle acts of sabotage or betrayal. These people don't always make their envy obvious. In fact, some of them will seem like your biggest supporters. They'll ask about your goals, your relationships, your plans, acting as if they're genuinely invested in your well-being. But their questions are not coming from a place of love or encouragement. They're looking for flaws. They're listening for cracks. They're waiting to hear that something has gone wrong so they can feel a little better about their own lack of progress. Every success you share feels like an attack on their ego. And instead of using your growth as inspiration, they take it as competition. And when they feel they can't compete, they try to undermine, discredit, or discourage. Opening up to someone like that can become an emotional trap. You might find yourself celebrating something small and pure, a new job, a healthier habit, a peaceful relationship, and their reaction doesn't quite match the energy. They might offer faint praise, quickly change the subject. Or worse, start subtly planting doubts in your mind. They'll question the stability of your new path, bring up your past failures, or suggest that your progress won't last. And because their envy is dressed as concern or realism, you might not recognize it at first. You might take their words seriously, let them into your thoughts, and begin to question your own joy. This kind of energy is toxic, and the worst part is that you don't always see it coming. That's why protecting your personal life is essential. Not because you're hiding, but because you're preserving your peace. Your dreams, your relationships, your healing, these are sacred processes. They deserve to be nurtured in safe spaces, not exposed to people who feel threatened by your glow. When someone is rooting for your failure behind a mask of support, they're dangerous in ways words can't fully capture. They don't have to attack you directly. All they have to do is whisper the right doubts at the right moment, and suddenly you're no longer sure of yourself. Many people can't handle the idea that someone close to them is doing better. It reminds them of where they're lacking. It exposes the effort they haven't put in, and it forces them to confront uncomfortable truths about their own lives. So rather than taking accountability and working on themselves, they focus on dimming the light of others. If you give them too much insight into your world, you become a target for their inner turmoil. That's why it's not your job to make everyone comfortable with your journey. You don't owe anyone a detailed report on your progress. If someone hasn't shown they can celebrate you without jealousy, support you without comparison, and love you without limits, they haven't earned the right to hear your personal victories or struggles. By staying quiet about your personal matters, you strip away their power to twist your story. You remove their access to your emotional landscape, and you protect yourself from having your life become someone else's battleground for their unresolved insecurities. The less they know, the less they can weaponize. Silence becomes your strength, not because you're hiding, but because you're choosing peace over performance. There's a kind of sacredness in privacy that too many people overlook. In a world obsessed with oversharing, when you keep aspects of your life to yourself, you maintain an element of mystery that protects your energy, your intentions, and your focus. The less people know, the less they can interrupt, distract, or manipulate. Your goals, your relationships, your plans, when kept quiet, become safe from premature judgment, negative projections, and unnecessary interference. In silence, you can build without interruption. You can evolve without scrutiny. You can grow without the pressure of meeting other people's expectations. That mystery becomes your shield, your power and your protection from external chaos that seeks to invade the peace you've worked hard to cultivate. People have a habit of forming opinions about things they barely understand. The moment you share your dream, someone is ready to critique it. The moment you speak about a new chapter in your life, someone starts dissecting it. And whether they mean to or not, their words can impact your emotional clarity. Suddenly, you're defending decisions that weren't even up for debate. You're justifying your happiness, your healing, or your ambition to someone who doesn't walk in your shoes. That's the danger of being too open. Your life becomes a public forum where everyone thinks they have the right to comment. But when you embrace privacy, you strip away that entitlement. You take back control of your narrative. You make it clear that not every detail of your journey is up for discussion. Mystery doesn't mean deception. It means discernment. It means you're choosing wisely who gets access to the sacred chambers of your life. You're no longer throwing your pearls before swine, hoping they'll appreciate the value. You're no longer offering your vulnerable truths to people who haven't shown they know how to hold them gently. Instead, you're preserving your inner world for those who have earned that level of closeness through loyalty, trust, and time. And even then, you choose carefully what to reveal. Because once something leaves your mouth, it's no longer just yours. It belongs to the listener. And what they do with that information is no longer in your control. The power of being mysterious lies in unpredictability. When people don't know what you're thinking, planning, or doing next, they can't prepare to sabotage it. They can't insert doubt or feed you fear. They can't manipulate the outcome because they're not even aware of what's unfolding. You move in silence, and that silence protects your momentum. It keeps your vision pure, untouched by the noise of opinions and projections. And in that stillness, you gain clarity. You can hear your own voice without the static of others. You can course correct without having to explain yourself. You can change directions, grow, and evolve without the pressure to announce every step. When you become known for your discretion, people learn to respect your boundaries. They stop prying because they know they won't get anything. They stop assuming because they've realized your silence is intentional. That kind of self-mastery commands respect. It shows that you don't need external validation to feel secure in your journey. It shows that you've reached a level of inner peace where your life no longer has to be a performance. You're not living to be seen. You're living to be fulfilled. And in a world that constantly demands transparency, that kind of restraint is powerful. There's something deeply attractive and commanding about people who don't overshare. They carry a certain depth that makes others curious. They're not easy to read, and that unreadability becomes a strength. People notice their presence but can't predict their moves. They see the results but don't understand the process. That gap between what's known and unknown becomes an aura of mystique, one that keeps people intrigued but at a distance. And that distance creates space for your peace to breathe, your thoughts to flourish, and your goals to come to life without sabotage. Not everyone in your circle is rooting for you, and sometimes the biggest enemies wear the mask of friendship. People you trust the most can turn into the ones who betray you the deepest. The pain of betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from those you let close enough to know your heart, your struggles, your weaknesses, and your dreams. And when those very people use that privileged information against you, it cuts in ways that no outsider ever could. That's why it's dangerous to be too open with everyone, even those you think would never hurt you. You never truly know someone's intentions until your vulnerability becomes their weapon. Betrayal doesn't always announce itself with loud conflict or obvious backstabbing. Sometimes it comes quietly in the form of gossip, judgment, or silent envy. The friend who once listened intently to your problem suddenly starts sharing your private struggles with others behind your back. The person who promised to be a safe space now uses your pain to make themselves feel powerful, relevant, or morally superior. What's worse is that betrayal often comes after you've already exposed the most fragile parts of yourself. That level of violation doesn't just break trust with one person, it shakes your belief in people altogether. It makes you hesitant, guarded, and unsure of who deserves access to your inner world. There's an illusion that closeness equals loyalty, but the two don't always go hand in hand. Just because someone has been around you for years doesn't mean they've earned the right to know your secrets. Familiarity doesn't equal trustworthiness. And often betrayal comes not from malice, but from immaturity, carelessness, or jealousy. People get too comfortable with your openness and start treating your story like it belongs to them. They talk about your life as if it's a show they've watched unfold, forgetting that your truth isn't entertainment, it's your reality. And when they casually spread your business or mock your vulnerabilities, it's a form of betrayal that lingers long after the words are spoken. This is why discretion isn't cold. It's wise. You're not being distant for no reason. You're protecting the sanctity of your experiences. You're choosing silence, not because you have nothing to say, but because not everyone deserves to hear, especially those who haven't shown that they can carry your truth with honor. The less people know about what matters to you, the less power they have to twist, misinterpret, or manipulate it. Your silence isn't secrecy, it's self-respect. It's the understanding that trust should be earned, not given by default. And once it's broken, the repair isn't simple. Even after betrayal, some people will try to come back into your life, acting as if nothing happened. They'll downplay the damage they caused, minimize your pain, or act confused about why you've distanced yourself. But forgiveness doesn't mean reinstating access. Just because you've healed doesn't mean they should be allowed back into the parts of your life they once disrespected. Forgiveness is about peace, not permission. You can let go of bitterness without reopening the door. In fact, setting those boundaries is a sign of growth. It says, I've learned my lesson. I won't let this happen again. In the aftermath of betrayal, the temptation is to shut down completely, to trust no one, to keep everything locked inside. But the lesson isn't to isolate forever. It's to refine your discernment. Not everyone is a threat, but not everyone is a friend either. Observe how people respond to your success, your silence, your struggles. Watch how they treat others' secrets. Pay attention to whether they feed off drama or if they create safe spaces. These behaviors reveal more about a person's character than their words ever could. And when you start moving through life with that awareness, you become better at protecting yourself. You learn to speak with purpose, not out of impulse. You learn to give access slowly and only to those who've proven they can handle it with care. Because once you've experienced betrayal from someone you loved and trusted, you realize that keeping your personal life private isn't just smart, it's necessary for your emotional survival. When you share your personal life too openly, you unintentionally give others the chance to judge you, sometimes harshly and unfairly. People have a natural tendency to form opinions quickly, and often those opinions are based on incomplete information, misunderstandings, or their own biases. Once your private experiences are out in the open, they become subject to scrutiny, criticism, and unsolicited advice. What started as a vulnerable moment becomes a public spectacle where everyone feels entitled to weigh in, sometimes with harsh judgments that don't serve your growth but only tear you down. The risk of exposing your personal life is that you lose control over how your story is perceived and interpreted. Judgment can come in many forms, sometimes subtle, sometimes overt. It might be a friend who raises an eyebrow at your choices, a family member who questions your decisions, or a casual acquaintance who spreads rumors based on snippets they overheard. Even people who mean well can unintentionally judge because they view your life through their own lens of values, experiences, and expectations. What seems like a simple difference in opinion can feel like a harsh critique when you're vulnerable. The more personal you get, the more you invite others to compare their own lives to yours. which often leads to unfair assessments rather than understanding. People also tend to forget that everyone's life journey is unique. When you share your personal struggles, achievements, or dreams, some will measure you against their own standards instead of appreciating your individual path. This comparison breeds judgment because it's easier to find fault than to celebrate difference. The consequence is that instead of receiving support or empathy, you might face criticism that sows doubt or guilt. Over time, this judgment can erode your confidence and make you question whether you were ever right to share in the first place. You might start second-guessing your choices, silencing your voice, and retreating back into yourself to avoid further criticism. Another layer to consider is that judgment often comes from fear or insecurity. People who judge harshly may be projecting their own doubts and shortcomings onto you. Instead of confronting their internal struggles, they externalize them by pointing fingers or spreading negativity about others. When you share too much, you open the door for these projections to enter your life and cause unnecessary emotional turmoil. This isn't a reflection of your worth or your truth. It's a reflection of where others are emotionally and mentally. Recognizing this can help you detach from their judgments and hold on to your self-respect. The exposure of personal details also invites unsolicited advice, which can be just as damaging as judgment. People love to fix what they perceive as broken, often without being asked. They might offer solutions based on their own beliefs or experiences, which may not fit your reality. This can leave you feeling misunderstood, pressured, or overwhelmed. When your life is private, you get to choose when and how to seek advice, ensuring it's coming from trusted sources who respect your autonomy and understand your context. When everything is out in the open, you become vulnerable to a flood of opinions that may drown out your own intuition and decision-making. Keeping your personal life private helps you maintain control over your narrative. It allows you to process your experiences internally, gain clarity, and build confidence without the noise of external judgment. You can develop your story at your own pace and share it selectively with people who have proven they will honor your vulnerability rather than exploit it. Privacy is not about isolation. It's about protecting your mental and emotional space so that you can grow authentically and courageously. It's about preserving your right to evolve without constant external interference. When you guard your personal life, you also protect your relationships from unnecessary strain. Oversharing can sometimes create misunderstandings or unrealistic expectations. People might feel burdened by information they didn't ask for or struggle to respond appropriately. By setting boundaries around what you share, you create healthier interactions where each person respects the other's space and emotional limits. This kind of respect fosters deeper trust and connection rather than superficial acquaintance. In a world that encourages constant sharing, choosing privacy is an act of self-care and strength. It's a way to safeguard your mental health, protect your peace, and honor your journey. It's a reminder that not every thought or feeling needs an audience, and that sometimes the most powerful growth happens in silence. By understanding the risks of judgment and the value of discretion, you take back control of your story and create a life that's truly yours to live. There is a profound strength in self-reliance when it comes to managing your own problems, emotions, and challenges. Relying too heavily on others to solve your issues or to be your emotional support can be a slippery slope, leading to disappointment, dependency, and even betrayal. When you share your personal life too openly, especially your struggles and vulnerabilities, you hand over a portion of your power to others. You entrust them with the delicate parts of your world, expecting empathy, support, or solutions, but not everyone is equipped or willing to handle that responsibility with care. This can lead to misunderstandings, broken trust, and at times exploitation. Learning to depend primarily on yourself is not about isolation or pushing people away. It's about cultivating resilience, clarity, and control over your own narrative. When you solve your own problems first, you build confidence in your ability to handle life's ups and downs. This confidence becomes a foundation that strengthens your sense of self and helps you face future challenges without panic or self-doubt. People who have learned to rely on themselves carry a certain quiet assurance. They don't constantly seek validation or reassurance because they trust their own judgment. This doesn't mean they never seek help, but they approach support with a mindset of strength rather than desperation. They are the architects of their own healing and growth, taking responsibility for their emotions and actions. This sense of ownership empowers them to move forward even when external circumstances are difficult or people around them are unsupportive. Dependence on others for emotional support or solutions often leads to vulnerability, not the healthy kind, but the kind that exposes you to emotional harm. When you share your personal struggles too soon or with the wrong people, you risk being misunderstood, judged, or dismissed. Worse, some may use your vulnerability against you intentionally or unintentionally. People who are not trustworthy might spread your private information, mock your weaknesses, or exploit your needs for their own benefit. Even well-meaning friends can inadvertently drain your energy if they focus more on their own feelings than on truly supporting you. By first learning to process and manage your challenges independently, you protect yourself from this kind of emotional exhaustion. Self-reliance also sharpens your problem-solving skills. When you face challenges head-on and work through them yourself, you develop critical thinking, creativity, and resilience. You learn what works, what doesn't, and how to adapt. This hands-on experience builds wisdom that no one can take away from you. When you rely too much on others, you miss out on this essential personal growth. Other solutions might not align with your values or circumstances, and blindly following their advice can lead to more confusion or frustration. By trusting yourself to find answers, you maintain control over your life's direction and avoid becoming a passenger in someone else's plans. Another important aspect of self-reliance is emotional regulation. When you learn to soothe yourself, manage your stress, and regulate your emotions independently, you reduce the risk of becoming emotionally dependent on others. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending you're fine, but rather developing healthy coping mechanisms. You become your own safe place, the first source of comfort and stability. This internal strength makes your relationships healthier because you're not using others to fill emotional voids or rescue you from discomfort. Instead, you engage with others from a place of wholeness and balance. Relying on yourself also sets a clear boundary that you are responsible for your happiness and well-being. It frees you from the expectation that others must fix your problems or validate your feelings. This mindset shift reduces disappointment and resentment because you understand that your emotional health is ultimately your responsibility. It also encourages others to respect your independence rather than viewing you as needy or dependent. People are naturally drawn to those who exhibit self-sufficiency and inner strength. It creates a dynamic of mutual respect rather than imbalance. In cultivating self-reliance, you don't have to close off to others or avoid connection. Instead, you learn to discern when to share and with whom, choosing relationships that are reciprocal, supportive, and trustworthy. You become selective about who enters your inner circle, ensuring they add value to your life rather than drain it. This selective openness is key to protecting your emotional well-being while still enjoying meaningful relationships. Ultimately, self-reliance and managing your personal life fosters empowerment, peace, and clarity. It teaches you that you are capable of overcoming obstacles, navigating complex emotions, and making decisions that serve your highest good. When you stop depending on others to solve your problems, you reclaim your power, build resilience, and create a life rooted in strength and self-trust. This foundation enables you to thrive regardless of external circumstances or the actions of others, giving you a freedom that no one can take away. When you protect your personal life by keeping it private, you create a strong shield against unnecessary drama and conflict. Oversharing can often turn simple situations into complicated emotional battles that drain your energy and cloud your judgment. The more people know about your struggles, your relationships, and your decisions, the more room there is for misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and gossip. This can easily spiral into drama that is completely avoidable if you choose to keep your personal life under wraps. Drama often arises from miscommunication or the spreading of partial information, and once it takes root, it spreads like wildfire, involving more people and creating unnecessary tension in your life. Privacy acts like a filter that prevents trivial issues from becoming full-blown crises. When you keep your thoughts, feelings, and experiences to yourself or share them only with a trusted few, you limit the number of people who can react emotionally or jump to conclusions. This reduces the chance of someone twisting your words or intentions, which is often the root cause of conflict. By holding your personal life close, you reduce the opportunities for others to take your situation out of context or to use your vulnerabilities as ammunition in arguments or gossip. It's a way of protecting your peace and maintaining control over your emotional environment. Furthermore, drama is not just emotionally exhausting. It can also damage your reputation and relationships. Once rumors or misunderstandings spread, it can be difficult to set the record straight. People may form opinions based on hearsay or incomplete information, and those opinions can stick even after the truth comes out. This creates long-lasting consequences that affect how others perceive you and how you interact with them. The emotional toll of drama can leave you feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and isolated. Protecting your personal life by staying discreet helps prevent these situations from arising in the first place. The other reason to guard your personal life against drama is that it often distracts you from your goals and priorities. When you are caught up in managing conflicts or clarifying misunderstandings, your focus shifts away from what truly matters: your growth, your work, and your well-being. Drama can consume your time and energy, leaving you depleted and less productive. By choosing to keep your personal matters private, you preserve your mental and emotional resources, allowing you to channel them into building the life you want. This focused energy is what separates those who succeed from those who get stuck in endless cycles of conflict and distraction. Privacy also sets healthy boundaries in your relationships. When you don't overshare, you signal to others that you value your own space and expect them to respect it. This encourages mutual respect and reduces the chances of being drawn into unnecessary disputes. People who respect your privacy are more likely to treat you with consideration and kindness because they understand the importance of boundaries. This creates a safer and more supportive environment for genuine connection without the chaos of drama. Additionally, keeping your personal life private helps you avoid becoming a subject of public opinion or social media scrutiny. In today's connected world, personal details can quickly become public knowledge, leading to unwanted judgments and exposure. The internet never forgets, and once something is shared widely, it can be almost impossible to take back. By controlling what you reveal about yourself, you protect your digital footprint and maintain your dignity and integrity in both your personal and professional circles. Choosing privacy doesn't mean you have to be secretive or lonely. It means you are selective and intentional about what you share and with whom. It means building a circle of trust that respects your limits and values your discretion. When you create this safe space, you reduce the likelihood of drama and create an environment where you can thrive emotionally and mentally. This intentional approach to privacy strengthens your resilience and helps you navigate life's challenges with calm and clarity. By guarding your personal life against drama, you maintain control over your emotional well-being and preserve your peace of mind. You protect yourself from unnecessary conflict, reduce stress, and create space for positive growth. This mindful approach to privacy allows you to live with greater balance, focus, and happiness, free from the chaos that comes with oversharing and drama. Keeping your personal life private allows you to develop a deeper sense of self-awareness and emotional intelligence. When you don't constantly share every detail of your life with others, you give yourself the space and time to reflect on your thoughts, feelings, and experiences without external distractions or influences. This self-reflection is crucial for understanding who you really are, what you truly want, and how you react to different situations. Privacy creates a safe environment where you can explore your inner world honestly and authentically without worrying about judgment or the need to conform to others' expectations. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence. The ability to recognize and manage your own emotions, as well as to understand and empathize with the emotions of others. When you keep your personal life to yourself, you learn to identify your triggers, strengths, and weaknesses on your own terms. You begin to notice patterns in your behavior and emotional responses, which helps you make better decisions and avoid repeating mistakes. This internal clarity fosters resilience because you become less reactive to external opinions and more anchored in your own values and beliefs. When you protect your personal life, you reduce the noise created by others' judgments and unsolicited advice. This noise can cloud your perception and make it difficult to distinguish your own feelings from those imposed by others. By limiting the information you share, you create mental and emotional space to process your experiences independently. This practice strengthens your intuition, the inner voice that guides you toward what feels right and authentic. With greater self-awareness, you learn to trust yourself more deeply, which is essential for personal growth and emotional well-being. Privacy also encourages emotional regulation, an important aspect of emotional intelligence. When you are not constantly seeking validation or sympathy from others, you develop the ability to calm yourself, manage stress, and navigate difficult emotions more effectively. You learn healthy coping mechanisms that don't rely on external reassurance, which makes you emotionally stronger and more stable. This independence is empowering because it reduces your vulnerability to emotional manipulation and helps you maintain balance even in challenging situations. In addition, keeping your personal life private allows you to cultivate empathy and understanding for others. When you spend more time looking inward and less time broadcasting your life, you become more attentive to the feelings and experiences of those around you. This attentiveness improves your relationships because you're more likely to listen deeply and respond with compassion rather than judgment. Emotional intelligence is not only about managing your own emotions, but also about connecting meaningfully with others, and privacy supports this by fostering a thoughtful and intentional approach to communication. Another benefit of privacy is that it helps you build stronger boundaries. When you are selective about what you share, you teach others to respect your limits. Healthy boundaries are essential for emotional intelligence because they protect you from emotional overload and enable you to interact with others on your own terms. These boundaries also give you the freedom to say no when something doesn't serve your well-being, which is a critical skill for maintaining mental health and self-respect. Privacy also supports personal growth by allowing you to experiment, make mistakes, and learn without the pressure of public scrutiny. When your life is not on display, you have the freedom to try new things, fail, and adjust your course without fear of criticism or gossip. This freedom encourages courage and creativity, two key components of emotional intelligence. You become more adaptable and open to change because you know that your worth is not tied to others' opinions, but to your own journey and effort. Cultivating self-awareness and emotional intelligence through privacy empowers you to live authentically and with integrity. It helps you build a strong inner foundation that supports healthy relationships, wise decisions, and emotional resilience. By protecting your personal life, you nurture a deeper connection with yourself, which is the cornerstone of true happiness and fulfillment. This intentional choice to value privacy equips you with the emotional tools needed to navigate life's complexities with grace, strength, and confidence. The greatest revenge is success. The greatest power is privacy, and the greatest peace is found when you no longer feel the need to explain yourself. Live your life with intention, not interruption. Protect your journey, shield your spirit, guard your growth. Don't share your personal life with anyone, not because you're bitter, but because better than the drama, better than the noise, better than the need for approval. They'll see it when it's done, and by then it'll be too late for them to stop you. So move in silence, build in silence, heal in silence, and let your silence make the loudest statement.